Hey guys, Paul here with PatTech. In this video, I'm going to show you how to create a master storyboarding template that you'll be able to use to create training videos for your small, medium, or large size company. Additionally, I'm going to share some of the fundamental mistakes people make when attempting this on their own. We're going to accomplish this miraculous task using none other than PowerPoint, and then I'll show you a little known efficiency tip for dumping your template into Camtasia with pretty much one click. I'll also show you a cool tip for getting your screen grabs in the production program of your choice that's going to save you a ton of time. At the end of the video, if you feel the video has been helpful and you'd like to have a copy of my template, all you have to do is subscribe and email me, and I'll be happy to send you out a copy that you can rebrand any way you like. So with no further ado, let's jump in. We'll have a look. Hey guys, okay, welcome to PowerPoint. Now I'm going to click on the home button here. So the first thing we need to know about making a video, and that is you need to know the dimensions of your video. And we're going to create this training template for 1080p, and so the dimensions are 1920 by 1080. So it's important that we set our template properly. And the easy way to do that, if you're familiar with Photoshop, I'll just click on Photoshop here for a second, and I'm going to come down to image size. And so I've set this for 1080p. So there's your 1920 pixels by 1080, which is 26.6 by 15 inches. Okay, so just remember that for a second. Now we're going to jump back to PowerPoint, and from the home slide, or from the home button, you want to click on Design. And when you come over the extreme right side here, almost extreme right side, slide size, come down to most people just go in and they click on widescreen 16 by 9, and they've made their first mistake, and here's why. When you click on widescreen, the dimensions are 13.3 by 7.5. That's half the resolution of 1080p. So there's your first mistake. So to fix that, just come over here to Custom, because you know it's 26.7 by 15, like so. Click on this, click on Maximize. Now your template dimensions have been set properly. You're off to the races. So I've saved you making your first mistake. Now I'm going to click on the home button, and I'm going to save you making your second mistake. We're going to draw a box, and if I'm sounding condescending, I apologize. I'm not trying to be. I just do this so much that. So the second thing we need to do is we're going to draw a rectangle, and I'm going to right click on it, and I'm going to click on size. So what we want is the height here is going to be 3, and the width is going to be 4. If you see this little box here, it says lock the aspect ratio. Click on that. So now you have a little box that's exactly 4 by 3 aspect ratio. So if you're working in a company where there's legacy PowerPoints floating around, like any multinational I've ever been in, there's millions of them, literally. So if you're making training videos, and in this case we're making a template, you have to be able to accommodate the 4 by 3 older legacy templates as well as the widescreen. And if you do that, you will be successful, guaranteed. Take your 4 by 3 little box like so to the top corner and drag it down like that. The blue area is your content area to port in those 4 by 3 PowerPoints, legacy PowerPoints that you have. Now I'm going to copy and paste this box. I'm going to right click on it. I'm going to change the color to a nice hideous yellow color for you. Yellow, orange, whatever the case might be. I'll line this up, drag this up. Okay. The blue is your content area. The yellow is where your picture-in-picture video goes, like the video I'm recording on this webcam right now. Okay. The white area above that is where you put your key points. So my friends, you have just created the first content slide for your master template for training videos. Doesn't matter whether it's a small, medium, or large size company. Doesn't matter whether it's sales, service, you know, how to be a doctor, how to do bypass, you name it. This template will accommodate whatever you need to do. Okay, now we've got the fundamentals down for the first content page. What I've done is I've jumped into the actual template that I've created. And this is a generic template. This is one I'm going to give you that you can modify to your heart's content, brand it to your particular corporate logo, whatever you want to do with it. And so you can see the picture-in-picture. And the black here is just the mesh slide I pulled out of PowerPoint. And so first thing we'll do is let's go back to the very beginning, because where this all starts, if I just hit escape here and I'll hit the light table view, we're going to build a splash page, an objectives page, an overview page, a section divider. There's your content page. There's a second content page, and I'll talk about that in a second. We're going to do a review page, and we're going to do a contact us and copyrights page. But we'll start with the splash page here. And so basically, a long time ago, Google did some surveys as to, they're trying to maximize their sales here. Where do people's eyes go when they're surfing the web? And what they noticed was that top left to the bottom right, or to the top right, and then to the bottom left and to the bottom right. And that's important. It's called the Z effect, and there's a white paper on it if you want to look at it. I could make it available to you, but the bottom line is if you apply these principles to your e-learning or your video-based training, it helps put the key elements for your video exactly where people would expect them to be. So put your logo or your company name in the top left corner. Put your training department details. Is it a video module? Is it a how-to video? Is it a webinar? Whatever it is, put it on the right-hand side. And then as your eyes come down from top right to bottom left, put the title of your video there. A little picture there, whether it's people for soft skills or it's some tech product or what have you. Bottom left is where you want to have your cataloging information, okay? You want to have a number for that video for sure, because as you build them out, you're going to have tons of them. And I would say at least 3 digits, because things will grow fast when you start doing video production. And believe me, I've been there. And then your eyes move over to the bottom right, and you can put another logo in here for your particular department or whatever you need to have, key information that's applicable to that video. Next thing you want to do is you want to have an objectives page. You always want to tell your students where they're going to. Completion of this module, student will be able to identify and recite all concepts presented. Of course, what else can you do with the video-based training, right? They have to identify it, they have to understand it, they can recite it, and then you might want to have them participate in a short quiz to check their competence, okay? And again, you just carry over your cataloging numbers here, your logos, everything else stays the same. And then the next thing you want to do is your overview page, your overview slide, straightforward title on the right, and then your bullet points over here on the left. And what you can do is, instead of having your picture very small in the bottom right hand corner, you can blow it up here and have it playing quite large on screen. And I'll show you that when I put this video together. But this is typically a system that works, okay, and it works really well. And then from here, you're going to jump into you may need a section divider, so I've created one here. I just kind of, put this amber color on and highlighted the particular section that you're on. Very straightforward. I don't use them on section 1 because you're going right. You've just blathered on about your overview. Then I jump into section 1. I use the section divider generally, if I'm going to use them at all, starting with section 2. All right, but I'll leave that up to you. There's your first content page. So if you're doing a slide like I'm doing right now, where I'm talking on screen, then I would have my picture-in-picture captured from my Logitech webcam. And here's a pro tip for you. Even though we're recording at 1080p, okay, when I set the specifications on my Logitech webcam and I do green screen with this, I either use MJPEG or MP4, and I'm setting 1280 to 720. But not 15 frames per second. Set it to 30 frames per second. And if you set it to 30 frames per second, and you'll be able to do green screen, believe it or not, in this small space here, and it looks quite good. And I can even use it full screen on the overview page or on the recap page, and it looks really good. Okay. Now the next most important thing we have to contend with is we need to have a slide so that if you're doing a software walkthrough or you just want to play a video full screen, you should have a content page that will accommodate that. And that's what I use this page for. This is a content page for full screen video playback, software walkthroughs, whatever you want to do. Now, you might not necessarily have bullets on the screen, but you might have a dividing line and your section name down the bottom here. So you always want to have 2 content pages, one for picture-in-picture and one without. And I'm not saying, let's just back up a second here to the previous slide. I'm not saying that you have to use picture-in-picture on every slide, or you don't want to have your picture-in-picture jumping around, okay? So if you use it on a slide like this, and you've got it up in the top right, and the next slide you got it in the bottom left and the bottom right, it looks really unprofessional. So this is the whole reason for this type of a content page, is that this picture-in-picture frame down here makes sure that your PIP size is exactly the same on each content slide. So you're not jumping around. It looks more consistent. It looks professional. So then run your full screen video on this content page, and then it's really just a matter of duplicating the number of PIP content slides or the number of full screen slides that you're going to need to accommodate your subject matter expert's PowerPoint that he's put together for the storyboard. He or she, by the way. And then on the last slide, what we're going to do is a recap. And what's important on the recap, and here's a mistake that most amateurs will make, and I'll just go back here. So this is your overview. They'll typically take the bullet points from the overview and they'll copy them down to the recap slide. And what you should be doing is, instead of just reiterating those overview points, if section 1 is about widgets, then you should be giving the students key takeaway information on whatever you covered in section 1. Section 2. Maybe it's hardware. What are the key takeaways from the hardware? Section 3, software. What are the key takeaways from the software? And that's where you're really drilling down to that key information that students. And teaching is all about tell them what you're going to tell them what you're going to talk about, and then tell them again, and tell them again, and tell them again. And that's what the recap is all about. So now let's go to the last slides, and you can break this into 2 slides. I put it here as contact information and copyrights. You might want to have 1 slide for copyrights, one slide for contact information. So as you leave them on your recap, the last thing you should be doing is thanking them for attending. If there's anything coming up in the company news or something like they need to know about, that's a good place to talk about that. But then you always want to close out with some contact information, maybe your tech support numbers, something like that, your copyrights, and that's pretty much it. That's how you can end your video. And so then if we come back to the light table view, really what you can see is your video consists of 2 content pages, and you've got a front bookend, which is splash page, objective, overview page. Section dividers are optional. And then your back bookend is your recap and your contact information and copyrights. And I would highly recommend that you use a little bit of audio over your splash page and your objective. And then once the audio starts talking on the overview, that's when the soundtrack should go away for sure. And the same thing once the recap is done. Just as the recap is coming to the very end, you can bring your soundtrack back in and it can play over the contact page and the copyrights. And that will give you a very consistent, professional looking training video. Okay, so here's another one of those pro tips that is so valuable, I cannot tell you. I just got to share this with you. So we're going to jump to PowerPoint. So here's our PowerPoint presentation with our slides. There's the light table view there. So what do we got here? 4, 8, 9 slides all together. Okay, so now you want to get those into Camtasia. The reason this is so powerful is that, the slide decks I work with can be 50, 75, 150 slides. So you don't want to be importing those into Camtasia one by one, or any video production program for that matter. So here's how to do it. Okay, if you go to File, Save As, and I've already done this once. I'm going to call this Slides 2, and you want to select either JPEG or PNG. In this case, I'll select, I should select JPEG since I did PNGs the first time. So I'm going to select Slides 2 and click Save. PowerPoint says you want to import, which slides do you want to export? Just this one or all slides? So you're going to click on All Slides. Each slide in your presentation has been saved as a separate file in the folder, blah, 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 blah. Click OK. So now we're going to jump over and take a look. And we come here. There it is, Slides 2. Each one of those PPTX slides has been saved as a JPEG. That's one way to do it. Here's another way. Okay, so now we're going to go to Camtasia. I'm going to click on File. Whoops, I'm going to go down to, we got Media, File, Import Media, and I'm going to find the actual PPTX file that I used to create the template. I'm going to double click on that, and voila, each one of those slides has just been brought into Camtasia as a JPEG file. That is hugely powerful. And it's the one reason that if you're building e-learning or video-based training for a small, medium, or large-size company, yeah, you can do video in Final Cut, in Premiere, in DaVinci Resolve, all these fancy programs. But those programs don't capture your webcam and your screen, and they don't allow you to have this cross-pollination between Camtasia and PowerPoint. And that is huge for video-based training production. Okay, this next pro tip, you're absolutely going to love it. It doesn't matter whether you're working on a Mac or you're working on a PC. I happen to be working on a PC at the moment, and whether you're building your storyboarding template or you're doing the production side in Camtasia, a lot of people do screen grabs. I mean, we have to, right? From time to time, you got to grab an image from somewhere. And on the PC, a lot of people will tend to use Snippet. But there's a program that TechSmith, who makes Camtasia, makes. It's called Snagit. And I've got a copy on my machine here. And so I thought we'll just open it up. And I'm going to show you this thing here. So I've got it set to select a region. And I'm just going to hit capture. And then basically, you just come over with the crosshairs and you drag across, and I don't think Snagit is really anything new. I've used it a number of times over the years, but the pro tip is the functionality built into 2021 Snagit, and that is once you've done your capture, then you can come over to the top right here, and when you click on Show the Share options, and you can come down, you can import your screen grab directly into the program that you're working on. So if you're working on PowerPoint, doing Word, you know, screencast, you want to dump it into Google Drive. If it's a video, you can dump it into YouTube. So I'm going to click on Camtasia here, and it brings the image directly into the program. So no more saving it as a file, taking it into Photoshop, resizing it, editing it, and back and forth like this. This is another one of those pro tips that's just, you know, it's saved me a ton of time, and it's what I would describe as a true game changer. You know, Snagit right now, I think is about $50 to purchase 2021, something like that. And this is not a paid video. You know, I'm just giving you what I call a pro tip to help improve your efficiency in your production process. And this is definitely one of them. You know, using Snagit and being able to dump the screen grab that you do directly into the program of your choosing. At least there's certainly a huge number of them that are compatible with Snagit, and Camtasia certainly is, because the company makes both Camtasia and Snagit. So there you go. So what are the takeaways from this video? Well, you want to understand where you're going with your training video, like for example 1080p in our case. You want to make sure that you apply the correct dimensions in your PowerPoint master template. That's crucial. We looked at the Z effect to maximize the effect of our layouts and where you put the items on your screen. We need to make sure that our training videos are cataloged by numbering them. Bottom left-hand corner is what we showed. And then we need to use version control, even if it's just V1, V2, V3, etc., so that you know that when you've completed one, if you have to do an update later on, you got V1 here, you're going to update it. Once it's published, it becomes V2. We also learned that even though our video is 1080p, we can leverage a lower resolution video for picture-in-picture green screen, which is helpful. And we covered the power of importing PPTX slides into Camtasia with basically one click. And that's kind of the cross-pollination between TechSmith and Microsoft, I guess, or between Camtasia and PowerPoint. That's huge, though, for saving you time. And then lastly, we looked at Snagit 2021 to import our screen grabs directly into Camtasia and other programs. So like I promised up front, this template is yours. If you're interested, all you need to do is subscribe and like the video, drop me a line in an email, and I'll send you a copy of this template to use as you wish. And thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next one.